Creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be a super fun episode today, y'all. We have 5 amazing custom Pokemon, but before we get started, I wanted to take a second to just say thank you for the amazing support we've been getting. Like, seriously, y'all seem to love the series just as much as me, which is firing me up to get more videos out there, and there's cool new stuff on the way, so be on the lookout for that. But besides that, let's stop talking and get into these Customon. So alright, dude man tech, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a fossil Pokemon. We're starting off strong. And we actually got really close to the first God Pokemon. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve. Because you're a fossil, you can get 1, 0, or split, and you got 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be besides the rock type, and you're going to be rock psychic type. That's super unique. I don't think a fossil's ever had that type. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X factor. None this time. Taking a mind fossil to a lab would revive Pachydon, the big head Pokemon. These Pokemon were so top heavy that it was normal for them to fall over while walking. At level 37, it would evolve into Psychosaur. These Pokemon were thought to be hyper intelligent and probably would have wound up building a utopia if it wasn't for, you know, the meteor. In design, this Pokemon is based off the Pachycephalosaurus, the same dinosaur that Rampardos is based off of, which is why they look similar. And I'd even like to imagine they existed at the same time, with Rampardos being seen as a dumb brute by the more intelligent Psychosaur. And that's gonna do it for today's first Pokemon. For the shiny, I went with this blue color, and overall this Pokemon was super fun, especially being a Psychic-type fossil, because it's never been done before. Big thanks to LeptitArt for bringing the idea to life. Today's second Pokemon is for Nate the Great. So alright Nate, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Convergent evolution. Which means now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon we're making a Convergent for, and it's Generation 7. Cool. So now we'll spin this wheel that has every single Generation 7 Pokemon on it, and we got Salazzle. That's a really unique Pokemon, and of course we'll do Sandit too. Now let's see what new typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Salazzle line. Your first type is the Grass type. That's pretty close to Poison, so we're still in the same realm. And Grass Fairy type. Fairy is quite the opposite of Poison. The first stage of your Pokemon is Salandit, the insecure Pokemon. These Pokemon hate water because they get super self-conscious when they see their reflection. And just like regular Sandit, Salandit would only evolve if it was female, at which point it would reach level 33 before evolving into Sadazzle. These Pokemon never have to hunt for their own food because their pre-evolutions are always bringing it to them, because they're basically giant simps. Now, regular Salazzle has the really cool ability Corrosion that lets it poison Steel-type Pokemon. And I tried to think of some sort of similar signature ability for Sadazzle, but honestly, I didn't come up with anything cool enough. I thought of things like Powder moves can hit Grass types, Fairy-type moves are super effective against Steel-type, and Fairy-type moves have a chance to poison, but none of them felt spot on. Maybe you can help me with an idea in the comments, but that's it for today's second Pokemon. For the shiny, we had to do a callback to the original because it's always hype when they do that, and this Pokemon turned out super great. Big thank you to MooMooMilk for drawing this one. Also, with the addition of Sadazzle, we now have 3 Convergent evolution lines, and I think my favorite is still Ging Galaxy. That thing is just too cool. Today's third Pokemon is for Dr. Minotaurus. So alright Doc, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. Nothing wrong with that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and it's looking like 0, which actually makes you a basic Pokemon. Now let's see what typing this Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Ice type. That's good. I think the Ice type gets a lot of flack, but it's one of my favorites. And Ice Fire type is very paradoxical typing. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X factor, and again, none this time. Your Pokemon is Abysmatable, the Suffering Snowman Pokemon. This Pokemon has a really unique design because it's supposed to be a snowman that's constantly melting and refreezing its body all the time. This leaves the creature in a constant state of pain and makes it very aggressive. You've been warned, do not approach. And that's gonna do it for today's third Pokemon. For the shiny, I went with this silver and green color that I think turned out sick, and this was a very fun Pokemon to work on, especially because of its unique typing. And at first I was confused why this combo doesn't appear on the unused types list, but Galarian Darmanitan does have this typing, but only in its Zen mode, which would make this the first real Fire-Ice type. Today's fourth Pokemon is for Christopher Butler. So alright Chris, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and it's looking like another regular, still nothing wrong with that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and it's looking like 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Dark type. That's one of my favorite types to make designs for. It's at least top 3, and you're actually pure Dark type because your second type is none. And the last step before we see what your Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and again, none this time. The first stage of your Pokemon is Tortot, the angsty goat Pokemon. These Pokemon are the mortal enemies of Lulu, and there's really no reason behind it. Tortot's just a terrible creature. Upon reaching level 28, it would evolve into a Pokemon with a very interesting name. You see, its name is actually a combination of 2 things, the first one being Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, and the sound that goats make. And the official pronunciation of its name is Hades. And no, I'm not kidding, it's Hades. Don't let its silly name fool you, this Pokemon is still an absolute threat thanks to its mastery of special attacking dark moves and its devilish demeanor. And that is all for today's fourth Pokemon. For the shiny, I went with this yellow color that I think turned out unique. Also, I picture these Pokemon being one of those early Route 2-stage Dark types that most of the games have, sort of like Purloin or Houndour, which is cool. Today's fifth Pokemon is for EF Henry. So alright Henry, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and it's looking like 2, which makes you a full 3-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be not a type, it's none, so whatever this next type is, it's your only type, and it is the bug type. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do! A Mega Evolution! That is awesome! The first stage of your Pokemon is Rapnid, the mummy arachnid Pokemon. These Pokemon can be found all over ancient Egyptian pyramids and tombs, and they're relatively harmless unless a bunch of them get together, in which case you're in trouble. Upon reaching level 17, it would evolve into Catacoon. This Pokemon is one of those standard cocoon bug type middle stages, but I actually think it's one of the most unique out of all of them, mainly because its body is completely obscure. This gives it not only a unique and intriguing design, but also leans more into the mummy theme, which makes it match a couple other Pokemon that have an Egyptian theme in our region, and it'll be cool to see where that theme goes in the fan-made game. Upon reaching level 37, it would evolve into Scorpius. These Pokemon are said to be the guardians of the pyramid's most secret chamber. It's said that they live forever, and as long as they're around, the secrets of the pyramids will remain a mystery. When exposed to Scorpite, it would evolve into Mega Scorpius. Now, some of you might be recognizing this design, and yes, it is based off Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in The Scorpion King. And while that movie was terrible, this design is anything but. It looks super cool, like a giant armored monstrosity, and I even see it being part of a mini-boss battle. And that is it for today's fifth Pokemon. For the shiny, I went with this blue color that I think contrasted the green, and overall, this Pokemon turned out sick. Again, thank you to the artist MooMooMilk. Alright y'all, that's gonna do it for today's episode. If you're excited about the next episode, make sure to subscribe and turn notification bells on so you don't miss it. Make sure to like the video, and most importantly, leave a comment if you want a custom Pokemon, because I'll be taking comments from this video for the next episode. Again, thank y'all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.